Hi, Changemakers. It's Julia Chow. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I have a very special guest, Jon Chintanaroad, founder of Recruiting Accelerator. He helps recruiters find their freedom by helping them succeed in their recruiting business. Jon has gone from being a solo entrepreneur, making about 20 to 30,000 a month, to crossing the 100K mark, everybody's dream goal, 100K a month mark, just within 2.5 months of working with me. And Jon's here to share his wisdom with anyone who is wanting to make the same transition. Jon, thank you for being here.
Happy to. Good to be here, Julia. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I would like to do this fast and easy and get all the good stuff out, because I know everybody's time is valuable. Your time is valuable. The audience's time is valuable. So let's just kick this off by speaking of where you were and where you are right now.
Yeah, I think when we met, yes, I made a face because I hadn't realized it was just so soon. It felt like I've known you for much longer. But yeah, in the less than 3 months we've been working together, I was, running my own online business where it's a coaching program where I help people start their own recruiting businesses, which has been my professional background. Yeah, I was doing everything myself, working 6 days a week on average, 7 a.m. 7 p.m. That type of like the grind mentality, the hustle mentality. That was like my, running through my veins every day. And when we had met, so that's kind of where I was, burnt out, frustrated. I was happy I was making 20, 30K. I mean, that's more money than I had ever made at the time, but just feeling unhappy. And I knew there was a better way, right? And now making over 100K a month and have a team and freed up my time. I basically, I make 5 times more now, and I've cut my hours by more than 50%, about 60%.
Right.
So,
I think this is
no, it sounds so too good to be true. I wouldn't believe it if I was, if you had told me that this is possible in 90 days, I'd be like, come on.
Yeah, right. So Jon, I find that being very significant, maybe something that we can expand on. So you've cut your hours by 50%. Can you tell us about what you were doing before? What was your work hours like? Yeah, what were they like?
So my schedule, it's funny, like you see my calendar where it's like multicolored Google Calendar blocks, color coded. Every single minute was planned out. So I wake up at 6:30, do my, morning routine, meditate, like all the affirmations, meditation, visualization, journaling, exercise, all that, all the miracle morning stuff. And then as soon as I would get on my computer and, work all day. I do sales calls, enrollment calls. I do DMs on LinkedIn, Facebook. I try to record and post content. And then in between that, I try to go develop courses and record modules and putting out fires when they came up. So and dealing with invoicing, finance. So I was, the head of every department, right? That was a one-person show.
Right. Yeah. And you were working how many times a week?
Yeah, like 6 days a week. My wife's a nurse and she works 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it was easy for me to hide and work, and I would drop her off and work till right before I have to pick her up. And then the next days when she would sleep in to recover from her long shift, I'd be working too. So yeah, that was my and I think in a weird way, even though I was working so hard and being burnt out, I liked it. It felt like the right thing to do, almost like a badge of honor. Like I could tell people, oh, I'm outworking you. It's because I'm working so hard that I'm able to have a successful business, right?
For sure. And then you knew you had to change. People change for several reasons. Sometimes people end up hospitalized, and I have seen this with multiple people over time. They go through that, and that's part of their story of why they decided to change. But for you, there was a different life transition, right? That made you realize you had to change.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a two-step process that kind of was a catalyst for this. I think the first one was kind of how we met, because I was talking to a friend of mine who I met through kind of the online entrepreneur community, and she keeps talking about her coach. Her coach is her mindset coach. She called it her mindset coach. And when I met her, she was working at a 9 to 5. In kind of corporate America type of world. And then but I've been kind of talking to her for the last 2 years, as she went from a 9 to 5 to now making well over 100K in her coaching business. And
She
Then
has a
one day when
seven-figure
she was,
business, right? Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, high, like close to high six figures now, right, per month, and then yeah, 7 figure per year business for
Yeah.
sure. And I think one day I was like, hey, listen, you keep talking about this coach of yours, like can you hook me up, right? Like hook me up. I want to talk to her, see if she has any availability. And then when our first call, I'm like, hey, whatever you can do, whatever you did for her, if you can sprinkle some of that on me, like that was kind of my inspiration. So the first part was really being inspired by seeing her growth, and then she keeps talking about you, so I wanted to meet you, the secret sauce, maybe, right? And then um more recently, 30 days ago, I have a newborn son, right? His name's River. And yeah, and of course, you being a mom, it was great to be able to talk to you about that and the changes, and knowing that you know what I'm going through and you understand. So that was really helpful. And uh because in the beginning, if I were honest, I probably was quite a little resistant in terms of like when you say, hey, you're working too much, pull things back, there's work smarter. And we've all heard those things before. And I was like, yeah, but like I can handle it. Like I can handle the hours. It's not a big deal. But when my wife got pregnant, she's like, hey, you better figure out how to work less, because the baby's coming soon. So it was a deadline. Like, okay, this due
Yeah.
date is when I need to figure out how to remove myself from the day-to-day process, or not do things that I don't necessarily have to do. So at first I was stressed. I was like, oh man, this is a burden. I need to, like, I'm gonna be working less hours, making less money. But the opposite happened. So that was kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Well, it's an incredible story and a really rapid change. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
To go
Yeah.
from, 3 months ago, right? 3 months ago, you were doing it on your own, working 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, right? Confirm
Yeah.
that for
Yeah.
me, right? And you were doing it all on your own, no team, still generating good amount of revenue, right? But
Right.
it gets exhausting. What happens is that it's not sustainable. I think all of us can relate to this, because this is a growing pain that everybody has to go through in business. The unsustainability, that you
Mhm.
can get money in, but then what happens is long term, right? Because short term you can handle it, but long term you don't have a life.
Yeah, and my fear was that, and I totally saw it very clearly. I was like, oh shoot, I can picture it myself, of like my wife saying, hey, I really need help with the baby. Like, can you watch him? And then for me to be like, oh, sorry, I have to go downstairs to my home office to,
Right.
I have 6 calls back to back to back. And I could picture that conversation happening. Then I'm thinking to myself, oh, if that happens, she'll be disappointed. Like
Mm-hmm.
Celeste, that I can help her, and I would feel bad that, like, oh, I couldn't figure out a way to not work that out, right? And so now, in terms of like my day to day, it's completely changed. Where I went from taking calls every single day, including weekends. I would take calls, right? And now I take calls only twice per week, just
Right.
Tuesday, Thursdays, and not just twice a week, but only twice a week in the afternoons. So I've literally went from taking calls almost every day, um, and yeah, just Tuesday, Thursday afternoons, and consolidating them, and things I couldn't know, things I didn't realize I could change, and that was really something that you really helped me with, which is like a paradigm shift,
Mm-hmm.
where I found that what you brought to the table and why I was so drawn to you is that I felt like you straddle a really cool place between like life coaching and business coaching,
Yeah.
right? And that little sweet intersection, because and when you told me, hey John, all the things that you want in your business really has to start from within your beliefs, your mindset, things that your paradigms, things that you're really holding as a truth. And I was like, yeah. And then, but within a couple of sessions, I'm all like, oh shit, yeah, like I am picking up all these workaholic tendencies for my mom, and I am doing this. It's like, all right. And since and having someone view you externally, like view me externally, and kind of challenge these like deeply held mindset, beliefs, paradigms, and challenge them and be like, hey, look at it this way, perhaps. That was really the key. I felt like for me, it really helped me change. And even when you first said, hey, you need to, on the first call, he's like, you need to hire a sales rep. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be, I'm like, well, but it's me. Like, they want to talk to me. I'm the one in all the videos. And if they don't talk to me, they're not gonna enroll. But now no one talks to me. Like they all go to my team, which is nice. Like I
Yeah.
talk to people once they're already on as clients, and I can just focus on my clients, right? It's really. I remember the last enrollment call I was on. I was like talking to them, and they were kind of like, I can tell that they weren't a great fit, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be on these calls anymore. Like I don't need to. Like the enrollment team knows enough about the program to enroll them, and so yeah. But I thought that I had to be on the front line instead of being like on top of the hill, looking down and seeing things from a better vantage point, right?
Right. So now you would say the main difference is that you're able to be a strategic leader rather than being a doer in your business, right? And all of us were conditioned to be a doer. You look at how our upbringing, right? In our school system, you were conditioned to take the test that's in front of you, that's given to you, and complete that to the best of the abilities to meet a standard that's set for you. So that's a doer, right? That's an employee mindset. All of us are trained for that. Now, what happens when you take somebody who was raised in that doer mindset, and then you get that person to be a business owner? In the beginning, we do have to deliver and create at the same time. Now, there's a cap, right? So what you're saying now is that you are in creation mode. You're a strategic leader. Now you really have to lead your team to meet greater goals, right? So now we talk about the purpose of your business, like what is your mission? All of that we have to reassess. It's like, where is this going? First need that we found together in our first conversation was salespeople, right? Because you had a lot of leads coming in. So you're the bottleneck then, right? That was only like a little pinhole, and then the water just like the hole just broke loose, right? And then you start to hire. Tell us some of the people that you hired after that. Salespeople.
Oh yeah, so I have we have one from a one-person team. Now I have a appointment setter full time.
Right.
She handles all my DMs. So when people message me, it's usually her, right? And then I have a YouTube, Google marketing person guy that handles all my ads for me. I don't have to look into that, which is nice. And I have I'm soon to have 5 people on my sales team. Yeah, right. So we have 2 now, and we're bringing on 3 more shortly in the next week. So that's going to be nice, because my marketing guy's like, hey, we have no availability. We need more reps. So he's driving me to hire more sales. And I'm like, okay, like, sure. And then I recently as of last week installed a bookkeeping team, because now that I have sales reps, a problem happened that I didn't anticipate, which was I spent like 2 hours trying to figure out everyone's commission. I'm like, okay, this person made this payment plan and their card ran or didn't run, and do it on a spreadsheet. So after like an hour, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I should have someone else who's better at this. Like I'm not good at spreadsheets to do that. So I have a bookkeeping team, and now they talk to each other like on Slack. I'm like, cool, you guys figure out. The salespeople are going to want their commission, so they're going to be on top of the accounting team to make sure that everything's in order. And then once I started outsourcing and delegating, I kind of got very addictive. I'm like, oh wow, I don't have to be on any. Like yesterday, I looked at my calendar, I had 0 meetings, 0 calls. I'm like, oh wow, it feels nice. And I was able to like go on a walk with the baby and the dog. And it gave me, this is something that you kind of talked about too, which is like, you said, well, the reason why successful people and wealthy people are that way is because they have all this time to like think and ruminate and contemplate and strategize and right. Whereas the doers, like what you're talking about, are like I was just a few months ago, we're like in the trenches, heads down, and they don't have like time or space to really figure things out or find better ways or solutions. So now that I have space for that, I'm having better ideas. And I'm like, wait, why don't you guys talk to you? Now I brought on in addition to round up my team, I haven't even told you this yet. It's been pretty new. I brought on a automations person, because then my salespeople are like, hey, can we have the calendar, talk to the CRM and import this field? So I'm gonna spend like 2 hours trying to like watch YouTube videos to figure this out. I'm like, wait, why am I doing this too? Like I'm gonna hire an automations person, bring him to the Slack channel. Like, you guys want some automation, talk to him. You don't involve me, right? So that's kind of where we are right now. So that's nice. And we're growing still, and I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah. How does it feel to have no obligation except to strategize, to think, to reflect, to automate?
Yeah,
right?
like I'd be lying if it said it feels like super normal and like like it still feels a little bit weird, right? I mean, I'm only a few months new to this, and like like I remember the first week or two when I was really off enrollment calls. I felt weird. I was like, oh, I went on, I think a weekend getaway with my wife or something, and I was like, oh, like this is no, it wasn't. It was sorry, it was when we were at the delivery room, right? Like when
Yeah.
doctor's like,
The
hey, we
baby was
want to keep,
coming.
yeah, we want to keep her another day, make sure like everything's happening fine. So I'm like, oh, another day. That's another day I'm not working. Like, so it was a 3 days at the hospital, and everything was fine. As you know, everything's healthy, baby's so healthy. So we're very grateful.
Hmm.
But 3 days away from work, being like sleeping and living in that like hospital room, I'm like, that's me not working, right? But then so that my mind still was like freaking out. But I like checked my phone and like my reps were like, hey John, like enroll this. We made 30K today. I'm like, oh well, no, I guess that worked, right? Like uh and that's kind of like when you see all those ads about like, yeah, just sit on the beach and have a margarita and make money while doing nothing. But like I think if you it's not doing nothing, but you're
It's not exactly doing
putting
nothing.
processes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it was like so I told my wife, I was like, yeah, like while we were like, while the doctor was visiting, we had two people get enrolled, and I was right here with you. So it was nice to be able. It's kind of yeah, it's like perfect, right? I'm there with her, and things are being taken care of without me having to be bothered by it, right?
Yeah, amazing transformation. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for opening up and sharing all these details, because details really
Yeah,
do help people understand. Many of us have a hard time breaking up with that addiction to struggle, right? I talk about the addiction to struggle all the time. It's like that workaholism, feeling proud of
yeah,
it, but at the same time not realizing how much this is hurting you, how much is ruining your life. There's a part that resists. So when you start to bring up all these details, it really does help people understand that, oh my gosh, this is something accessible. Maybe I will also enjoy it, because John also was where I am
yeah.
right now, right? And like I have the experience. I think most immigrant parent children have workaholism. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very
Sure,
typical, right? Because
it
it's
is.
just
Yeah,
the way it is. You watch
right.
your parents work all your life, and then because you're already different, you have to work harder. Most of us are speaking different languages, so that already means that you had to work very, very hard from the beginning. There was no tuning out. So resting, not having calls, these things feel very uncomfortable, but that is what thriving requires. Now that you can be the CEO of the business rather than being an employee, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny when you said breaking up with struggle. That made me think of a situation that happened. I haven't had a chance to update you yet. It happened yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, where it made me think about breaking up with a client. Where I had one client, super high maintenance, like always been like difficult from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And resisted all my coaching, just want to do things his way, and
Yeah.
took up like 25 minutes during the group coaching call, kind of just almost like whining and being like a Debbie Downer, right? Or it's oh, I don't know the guy version of that, but like yeah, so he was just really, and it was frustrating. I think I could tell the morale was like just sinking in the whole group. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this person again. And then he emailed me afterwards saying, hey, you're giving me, I know you gave me direct feedback, but I would appreciate if you were more like gentler on the all this stuff. And so I thought to myself, well, you know what? This is not a good fit. Like, and it's fine, right? I tell people, and my reps tell people when they jump on calls that like we only will enroll you if it's a good fit. And I thought he might be a good fit, but
Mm-hmm.
clearly he wasn't.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I just thought to myself, you know what? Kind of like with my how I felt on my last enrollment call. Like, I don't need to be. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, you know what? This is not a good fit. And so I just went to Stripe and just hit refund. Well, actually, I hesitated for 1 second. I'm like, oh, and I saw all the payments. I'm like, this is like well over 6,000 US dollars, right?
Right.
I'm like, we just bought a couch. That's like more than that. So I'm like, this could pay for the couch. Oh my, what's my wife gonna say? I'm like, you know what? Then I thought to myself, no, that's scarcity mindset, right? I'm like,
Yes.
no, who cares? I don't like. I said, boop, and then I said, yep, hey, you know what? It's not a good fit. Here's your refund, and wish you the best of luck. And afterwards, it felt so freeing. I'm like, oh, nice. I don't have to ever see him on a call again. And like, he's not a good fit, and he's going to do his thing and not like infect the energy of the group. And
Yes. That costs
not,
you more than $6,000. That one person who's not a
yeah,
believer, a Debbie Downer, one
yeah,
person, they say that one rotten apple will rot the whole crate, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not $6,000 worth. This is worth your whole
Sure. Yeah,
business
more.
to some level.
Yeah, exactly
Depends on
right.
how
And then
toxic they can
I
be,
even
right?
had a guest on the call who was a potential client, and I'm sure he probably was like, "Oh, this is like,
Right,
like,
exactly. Yes.
yeah." And it felt good, but reason why I'm sharing that is because I would not be able to do this 3 months ago before we worked together. Because like when I'm doing 20, 30K a month and minus expenses and everything else, I'm like, I can't afford to refund like 6K, right? Like, and he was on, this is like legacy pricing too, right? My program is more than that now, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm like, I can't afford. I would feel like I would have to keep working with them and jump through hoops or do private calls or bend over backwards. But now,
Yeah.
like from a place of abundance, I'm like, you know what? That's cool. And sounds too good to be true, but like a few hours later,
I was
I was
just
like,
gonna
oh
ask
man, like
you.
yeah, I was gonna say like a few hours later. Well, one, I told my wife, she's like, yeah, she's super supportive. She's like, oh, that person sounds like not a good fit. Yeah, I'm glad that you
Uh-huh.
kind of broke up with them. But then on my Slack channel under sales, I got, two of my reps each had enrolled one new person each. So I'm like, oh, well, that worked out. Like, I don't have to, I think it's like the fear of letting go and the whole, like, yeah, you talked about the overworkaholic immigrant mentality. Part of that is being so tight with money and like
Mhm.
the idea or the thought of like wasting money or losing money is like, but then, yeah, I thought, okay, my time, my energy, and it's like I felt so free to like let that bad client go and just focus on helping the clients who want my coaching, right?
Yeah, the best way I can describe it, you bought a couch, right? So what did you get a new couch first, or did you get the old couch out first? What you do?
I got we ordered the new couch and we're waiting for them to like pick a delivery date so then we can give the old couch to my sister-in-laws who want it.
Right,
So we're gonna do a swap. Yeah.
right. But you think about it, you can't bring in the new couch when the old couch is still there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So this is the abundance, scarcity, and the letting go. Is that you can't have the good stuff if you hold on to the stuff that is not serving you. So this person,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about their character, right? There's just something called not a good fit, right? So if you know
Yeah.
that and you can feel it, everyone else there is being affected by it. But if you hold on to this, then the good stuff cannot come in. So of course, I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, hey, did you get sales right after that? I was like, it was on the tip of my tongue.
Oh
And I want
yeah,
everyone to know who's watching this. We never discussed this before. John just,
yeah, no.
this is brand new information to me.
Yeah.
But this is a pattern of how energy and money is energy, how it flows. So now, as a boss, as the leader, as the CEO, you apply the universal laws of abundance in your business, right? That's exactly what you did.
Yeah, and then like it's almost like then one of the two people who had enrolled a few hours later, he came from a referral for one of my past good clients, who also reached out to me saying, "Hey, do you need people on your enrollment team? Like, I'd be interested." So
Mm,
like, oh, awesome! So everything's kind of just working out easily. But even the couch
awesome.
example, it's funny that that is a good like a similarity, right, between like out with the old and with the new,
Mm-hmm.
but similar to how I didn't think I could like remove clients or let them go and like give lose the money, or I know that I was allowed to do that or that was even an option. When I was the reason why we got the couch was, we talk about being at a vantage point, not being in. Normally I'm sitting on the couch, but the other day, now that we have like a baby, like we have people over all the time. So it's my wife, my dog, the baby, and my sister-in-law and her roommate. They're all on the couch, and so there's really no room for me to sit. And I'm kind of sitting on an uncomfortable bar stool, but I was like removed from the situation. I'm normally like sitting
Mm.
on the couch, and it's fine. So I'm like, why do we have this like wasted space? Like we don't need this like corner basket, and we never sit these bar stools. Why don't we just get a big old couch and I can sit, we can all sit. And once the baby's older, people are gonna come and visit. We'll have more guests. We'll need more room. And wife's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And I've had this couch for like 3 years. I never once thought, hey, let's just create more space. It was just
Mm-hmm.
never because I was always sitting in the couch. I was never like looking at the couch from a distance, being like, wait a
Right.
second, So I think that my mind's starting to, you help me to almost reprogram my mind to look for things that could, look for opportunities that wouldn't have been available to me or wouldn't have even crossed my mind, right?
Yeah. And to create more harmony and flow, and that creates abundance, right? And it's a constant cycle. how your home is, that does affect your abundance, right? There's feng shui, but not just that. If you want connection, if you want harmony, your home design has to support that, right?
Yeah.
Because that is
Right,
abundance.
right.
It's not only about having money, harmonious, you're deeply connected. These are all aspects of abundance. Nobody just wants to have money, right? When we say
Yeah.
just want to have money, but what you want is that you want people to like you or something like that, or you want to look significant, right? That's still related to connection. So it's not just,
Yeah.
or for many men too, it's like you just want to, if you have a lot of money, maybe women will like you more. Maybe you can get more beautiful women or something like that, right? So it's never just about money. So everything has to kind of, click together. Your home situation, your personal life, your business, right? And so now you're leading every single area of your life, which is awesome. Awesome, Jon.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, thank you
Thank you for
for helping
sharing
me
that.
with like all of this too. Because we did a lot of deep work. I think it'd be fair to say before we got even into the business tactics stuff, like hiring team members, we did a lot of work on like my inner stuff, like beliefs since childhood, things that was so like I was gripping with the iron grip, but like no, I have things are always this way. Like, and it's not even a conscious thing, like the workaholism. It's like it's almost like asking a fish, like what is water? I'm like what is work? I'm like, you work too much. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just so I've been doing it for so long. It's a part of who I am that I didn't think about it. And now, like, then I realize my stress level is low. I'm drinking less wine because I'm like, the other day, like, my wife's like, "Hey, you want a glass of wine?" I'm like, "No, I only need to drink when I need to take the edge off, and I don't have any edge to take off today. Like, everything's fine, right?" And of course, like drinking less caffeine, like has led to better health, which is more energy, and it's kind of freeing up my mind to have better thoughts. And so everything's just been kind of perpetually moving up versus spiraling down, or like, before I felt like I was in a leaky boat, like putting my fingers into like all the holes and hoping to like keep this thing afloat, right?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all this. Your time is valuable. If you were to just give one specific advice to anyone out there watching this who could relate to your situation and they want to have the same outcome, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it would be to kind of step outside of your box or your jar. I read something recently that said like you can't read the label from inside the jar. And for sure, I was like inside the jar, like doing this, and being able to step out, or like the analogy of like being a soldier and like being able, instead of being a general on top of a mountain or hill, looking down and seeing things. And it's definitely easier said than done. It's a concept that I think we all have heard of, to like step outside, have a vantage point, get some perspective, right? But really, like, it's hard to do it. It's like sticking points are hard to self-diagnose, right? I think people can understand that if like even people in the NBA have coaches, right? Because they're like, hey, your left hand dribble is like slightly off, and little things that they just would never have noticed that they need to be pointed out. So I'd say, talk to somebody who can help them give that objective train coaching, or third party perspective in a way that allows them, not just in like little small ways, oh, hey, by the way, you could like use this tool instead of that tool. Like, that's like small stuff. I'm talking about big movers, right? Big needle movers. Like, hey, why don't you like move this big thing this way? And they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, right? So it's that type of shift. I realized, I mean, like that one shift, would do not just a huge result, but like in perpetuity too. So yeah, getting someone that can help you give that perspective, and hold you accountable and make those changes, big ones, not just like small baby movers, like, hey, take a cold shower. Like, that's not going to change your life 180, right? But like certain things will, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom, Jon. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to creating more amazing outcomes together. And
yeah,
thank you for taking the time to show up today and share this amazing advice to those who are in need.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.